Welcome into another episode of OBR Game Tape here on the OBR Streaming Network. Please make sure you hit that subscribe on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, turn that bell on. We got shows, we've had shows for 9 straight days now because Jeff will give you 2 bonus emergency episodes over the weekend. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you got the notifications on. We're putting out content 5 days a week, multiple videos, multiple shows every day, and it's going to just be even more content as we get closer and closer to the season. So we appreciate you all, and we're almost there. We're almost to our goal of 10,000 subs. So tell a friend, be a friend, tell a friend, and all that good stuff. We are your hosts. I'm Jacob. That's Sam Penix. We are here on we're recording this on Sunday. So as always, this is pre-recorded, but I will do my best as I can to jump into the comments and answer any questions. So please feel free to interact in the chat, and I'll do my best as I have time to jump in there. Sam, how you doing today, buddy?
Overheating. It's been horrible the past 4 or 5 days here in Northeast Ohio, which you experienced being up here for training camp. So very happy for you.
Hey, I will say this. It was 9:30 in the morning, and the sun wasn't beating on me the entire time. It actually was not that unpleasant for the portion that I had to be outside. But when I then got inside, I had to pound some water because I suddenly realized that I had been secretly sweating out all of my hydration. And I was like, oh no. So we're going to get started today. As always, we do a film breakdown on this show. We're going to do Cedric Tillman. We're going to review some of his stuff from 24 and 23. But here at first, we want to talk about Kenny Pickett. I was at training camp, as Sam said, yesterday, which was Saturday. So by the time you've seen this, there's actually been their first padded practice, which is awesome. That it's one thing when they're just on the field going through drills and stuff, but when they put those pads on, they start hitting. You're like, okay. But we're going to talk about Kenny Pickett. So the news comes out today on Sunday. And you may have more information by the time you see this, and if so, we apologize. That Kenny Pickett hurt his hamstring, and they'll reevaluate him later in the week. I will say this: hamstrings are finicky. I've pulled a hamstring before and it lingered for like 10 months and it wasn't torn. There was nothing torn in there, like it wasn't even like a micro tear or anything like that. It's just it can happen in the weird, because I didn't see anything that suggested he got hurt because his best play of the day was the last play of practice. So I'm not really sure the severity of it, but the fact that they said evaluate him later in the week makes me think of week to week as opposed to day to day. And that could mean that they think it's a little bit more than just a bump on the leg, because Cedric Tillman gets hurt on Friday and he participated in drills on Saturday. So like they had him out the next day. So it tells you that they at least think it's something a little bit more to monitor than that was, even though Tillman wasn't a part of 11-on-11s. He was just on individual drills. So just what do you think that does, Sam, to this quarterback room, the situation, that your overall thoughts on this?
I mean, I think it streamlines it if he's out for an extended period of time. It doesn't mean he wouldn't still be in the competition, but it does mean he is now placed at a pretty significant disadvantage losing all those snaps, because I think had Flacco been the one to get hurt, you'd be like, okay, like it's not a big deal. It's not like he super needed those reps anyways, but you kind of have to treat Pickett as like a rookie. And I think they were kind of going that route. And now he misses out on, could be a couple days, could be a couple weeks, could be something that doesn't really go away. And, that's difficult for him. And, so that's from his perspective. From the team's perspective, it just means, all right, we got to bring in another camp arm, someone who is not going to have a shot at winning the starting job. And that probably means more reps for the two rookies. And I think they're going to be fine with that because they want to get those guys as many snaps as possible. So, just more playing time for the young guys. And I don't personally think it really affects the outcome of the QB battle much, because I think I would be shocked still if it wasn't Flacco week one.
Yeah, and I'll get to the reason I agree with you on that part based on what I saw on Saturday. I'll get to that here in a second. But yeah, I think it just means, hey, you guys wanted to see Shedeur Sanders more. You wanted to see Dillon Gabriel more. Well, I think that's what you're going to get. So in one way, it's kind of, it sucks for Kenny. It sucks for Kenny Pickett because they absolutely, you said it, they kind of were treating him like a rookie. They were giving him a lot of reps. They really wanted to see what he could do. That's evident. It's when Flacco goes in, runs a couple plays, and you're like, okay, you're fine. You're fine. You're good. Yeah, we're fairly certain you know how to do this. You're not getting a ton from reps. Flacco's not getting a lot from taking reps in July, at this point at 40 years old. But yeah, like it really sucks for him. But yeah, it's going to give you a better idea of what these rookies have. So I'm in one way, I'm a little excited to see Shedeur a little bit more because of what the kind of day I thought he had Saturday. So there's like, part of me is like, okay, I'm kind of excited to see what these rookies do with this opportunity. It sucks that it took someone getting hurt for them to get a bigger piece of the pie. But reality is that happens every day in the NFL. He's going to miss some time. And these rookies who I thought showed some real progress on Saturday now get a spot out there. Now, I don't want to spend too much time because I know that this has been talked about. I've written about this over at theobr.com, so you can check that out. But just some things that I thought at training camp when I was there on Saturday, some things that stood out for me. I'm just going to run through these real quick so we can get into Cedric Tillman and our regularly scheduled programming. And then I'll kind of ask you a few questions because I know you've seen some videos and things. So I would like to hear some of your thoughts on what you've seen out of camp as well. But the first thing that jumps out to me as I was watching this was Joe Flacco is head and shoulders above everybody else. I wrote this and then I followed it up by saying that doesn't mean that Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel didn't have impressive moments, because Shedeur Sanders, if you guys have not seen that touchdown throw to Luke Floria in the corner of the end zone, I think my jaw is still on the ground. Like, that throw was insane. It happened literally right in front of me because I was on that end of the bleachers right there by the end zone. It happens right in front of me, like few hundred feet in front of me. And I'm just like, holy shit. And so it doesn't mean that they didn't impress, but you can tell with Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel that they're not completely comfortable running this offense yet, and you can tell they're adjusting to the speed of the NFL, like the level of athletes. Even when they're going against second and third string, it's still it's the best of the best of the best. So even those guys that are not going to make the roster were probably stars in college. A lot of those guys. So you can tell with both of them, especially early. One thing that I liked that I saw from Shedeur early that was good and bad, he was a little antsy in the pocket, but he was checking down. And I was like, hey, that's something I just like really wanted to see from you more often at Colorado. Is sometimes I think he would just hold onto the ball. And I know he can't get hit right now, and they're not going to, and there's not pads for the offensive lineman to be blocking back, but like there was chaos going on around him, and I thought he was navigating it relatively well in the sense where you could tell he was a little antsy, a little unsure of himself, but like he throw it to his tight end, throw it to his running back, get 2 yards, don't hold on to it, take a negative play, don't run around, do something silly like you would do sometimes at Colorado that would drive me nuts when I was watching it. So that was kind of cool to see him do that. But they both looked kind of just uncomfortable a little bit. Just you can tell they're still learning the offense. They're still adjusting to the speed and all of those other things. But that final team period for Shedeur Sanders, including that touchdown to Luke Floria, like you just go Google it on Twitter or go to the OBR.com, read my article. It's linked in there where he throws it just – it's the definition of what people say when they're like, that was a dot, that was a dime. It was a definition. Like it was on a rope, dropped in a bucket, corner of the end zone. The placement was insane on that play. Like just there was nothing that either Luke Floria was catching a touchdown or it was going to fall incomplete out of bounds. Like it was not in harm's way at all. But there was pretty good defense because he had to layer the throw and throw it over the defender and then drop it in the bucket. So you saw some flashes from Shedeur Sanders on Saturday, to the point where last night after I had, it's a 4-hour drive for me. So I get home, I went and watched a movie and then drove my 4 hours home. I get home and I'm sitting there thinking about it and I'm just like, that's what I needed to see. Like now you got to do that against the first team defense. Now you got to do that in pads and while there's, and all that stuff. So there's still more work to do, but I really liked that. But again, Joe Flacco, head and shoulders above the rest of the group. Any thoughts about the quarterbacks from what you've seen online?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you were saying, and none of that is surprising, right?
Right.
We know that both of these rookies have talent, to a certain degree, and we know that the team liked them enough to take them. Whether they believe that they're a legitimate, potential long-term starter is a different story, but they liked him enough to bring him in, invest a draft pick and everything, right? They've had 2-3 practices. Like we know, it's going to take them a while to get acclimated to the game, right? They got to go through the process of getting adjusted to practice speed in the NFL without pads, then practice speed in the NFL with pads, then preseason action against another team who, isn't going to be as avoidant about trying to hurt them as their teammates are. Yeah. So it's going to be a learning experience for them both. And, I think it's be interesting to see how they differ in how quickly they adjust to things because Gabriel has played so much football and Sanders started out at junior college, then went up to Colorado, and now he's making another massive competition jump. So I think that's going to be interesting. But again, like it's Flacco's job. Like there's, I like an asteroid hitting the Earth. I feel like would be more likely than Flacco not making the starting job out of camp.
He would have to get hurt, in my mind, and that doesn't mean that they don't turn to Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders early. It just means I would.
Yeah, and I'm totally fine with that because like knowing what Flacco is, like you already know him. What he is, you know what you're gonna get out of him. That doesn't help you long term.
Yeah.
Right. That doesn't help you gauge which or both of these guys are going to be, a long term backup option for you. Like they need to play at some point. It's just out of camp, you're I don't know, what are you communicating if you were to do that, right? Like, you kind of have to do that with, they're already not super well positioned to like be a strong playoff contender this year. I don't know that you can really lean into that, especially with all the, morale that you've destroyed with the fan base over the past couple of years.
Right. Yeah. You got to put out the guy that gives you the best chance to win week one. Like, you just can't. I just don't see it. Brad Ward's talked about this a bunch. Him and Casey talked about it on All Eyes on Cleveland last Thursday. It's like, you kept telling the locker room that this guy gave you the best chance to win last year when it was bullshit. You can't do it again.
Yeah.
You just can't. Like, you're not going to come back from doing it again. But yeah, no, I definitely saw from both rookies yesterday. I was like, hey, there's some stuff there. I'm excited about that. Which, again, like you said, we all knew it, but it's still awesome to see it, to actually get to see it in practice, and things like that.
It's something to look forward to, something to be interested in. Like, it's a different, different vibe from the last couple of years. So, at a minimum, like that's a positive. Like, that's encouraging. It's more fun.
It's a step in the right direction at minimum. Like it's like at minimum, it's like the feels and the vibes are just
training camp isn't miserable anymore. It's a tiny step in the right direction.
Well, it's just like, Zach Jackson talked about it last year where they just felt so dead on arrival because of the way Watson looked. And it's like, let me be clear. The defense was significantly better on Saturday than the offense, but that's to be expected. But I still felt like I saw shades of how that offense could work. I'm like, okay, I could see how they could score 24 points and win a game because this defense looks really good. And I can see with Flacco, like Flacco's arm is as live as it's ever been. This dude it's so effortless for him in terms of just arm talent in the decision-making and the risks that he takes are highly questionable sometimes. But in terms of arm talent, like, that's not questionable. It's still there. It's still there, and it's as good as it's ever been. So that was evident. But what I thought, and I said this to Brad and Nick and Andy that were with us, I kept saying, that defensive line, and I didn't care what unit was, first, second, third, fourth, whatever. That defensive line was after it, and they're fast. They're fast, and that group is deep. And I'm talking edge. I'm talking defensive tackle. Mason Graham flashed for me. I don't care how many times I see Myles Garrett in person. It will always, you know what I mean? Like, I'm always going to have a moment where I'm a little awestruck. Like, I think if you were to blink at the exact second the ball is snapped and open your eyes a split second later, you would think he teleported to the quarterback. Like, because he was over there. Now he's
I think just watching the coach's film, because the frame rate of the camera isn't quick enough to capture his movements, so he does teleport on what?
It's not. Yeah, it's not supposed to be. In Alex Wright and Isaiah McGuire. Alex Wright I thought looked real good and real healthy. Him and Isaiah McGuire. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka looked bigger, than what I was expecting him to look, and he looked pretty good. He looked pretty good and pretty fast. Carson Schlesinger looked the part. Like, that whole defense looked the part. And defense is always, especially in the ramp-up period, ahead of the offense. But you could see the talent. Like I said, with the offense, you could see a path to them scoring 20, 25 points based on what I saw yesterday. I can see this defense, the path of it becoming a top 10 dominant unit. Ronnie Hickman had a really nice day. That's awesome, because that's one of the big question marks is, what's Ronnie Hickman going to look like? And I thought he looked really good. Denzel Ward was out there catching passes from the jug machine, so he stops dropping interceptions. He did that before practice. That was cool. Dude, that's got to piss him off. Like, he's like, did I just drop another one?
Like, it's just crazy.
Sometimes he gets 2 or 3 a game, but he was out there catching that, and he was looking good. What else did I have? Oh, I thought Dylan Sampson, it's hard to judge your offensive line and your run game when there's no pads, because offensive linemen really can't block properly without because they don't want to hurt their teammates. But like they were getting Dylan Sampson the ball, and you could see the explosiveness, like that speed and that acceleration and stuff that we've talked about. You could see that was very evident to me watching him yesterday. They ran and Nick Carnes, who was with me, highlighted really, really well the screen that Chubb made so just a standard screen to the right side where they'd leak out both guards and the right tackle and just dump it off. They ran that a couple times with Sampson, and I'm like, yeah, that's going to be a successful play. Like that's going to maybe not on the level of Nick Chubb because Nick Chubb's one of one, but like that skill set matches there. But I can see a path for that offense being 21 to 24 points a game, and then and that defense is good enough to where they could win 8 games or be something stupid like that. But it was fun. I enjoyed my day out there at practice, and I'm really excited here to by the time you guys are watching this, the padded practice will have already happened, but I'm excited to hear from Fred and that sort of thing. Did you see I wore my Spam Kinnaman shirt to I got comments on it. I think one guy was like, I love it. And it looked to me like he recognized it. So I think there was at least one viewer that saw the shirt and was like, oh my God, there's the Spam. So so I posted that on Twitter as well. But yeah, I think the defense very fast, every level. Any defensive thoughts before we transition to Cedric Tillman?
Yeah, I mean, I think the defensive line depth, I think, is, like you highlighted, you could maybe see another situation like last year where, they have a depth guy who's playing really well in the preseason, and then they flip him for like a late draft pick. It's like, all right, he wasn't going to make the team anyway. That's a free draft chip. So would not surprise me if that same thing happens, especially, with the guys that they've brought in this offseason.
Yeah, and I think I wanted to my computer's there we go. My computer was running a little bit slow. It's freezing on me, so I was trying to close one of my other windows. Yeah, you could see him maybe do one of those cut player for player because they did it how many years ago? 2-3 years ago when they flipped Mack Wilson for Chase Winovich. They traded a linebacker where they felt like it was a position of strength and they wanted another pass rusher, and so they flipped them with the Patriots. I think you could potentially see them do that for like another running back or another wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy, by the way. Jerry Jeudy can just get average quarterback play this year. This dude, he looks fast, man. Like in person. I didn't go to training camp last year or a game, so I have this first time I've seen Jerry Jeudy up close and personal. And he looks like he could have an even better year, which is awesome. Awesome to see. But with Cedric Tillman not out there, you can tell that wide receiver room's not. Deontay Johnson, I thought, had some good plays and stuff, but you could tell that they could use like one more body. Although Luke Floria, he just keeps popping up on me, man. And I know 5'9" wide receivers. They're allergic to 6-foot-tall wide receivers. That's what Brad told me. Because then they signed another 5'9" wide receiver.
Yeah.
But Luke Floria just gets open and catches the ball, And right now they don't have David Bell or Mike Woods. They were both not practicing. So with those two especially out, it made it look pretty thin. So I really think they could do something there. All right. So that is my early camp thoughts, Sam's early camp thoughts, and our thoughts on the Pickett situation. So let's transition to the main event. Let's talk about Cedric Tillman. And I'll give you the floor, man. Just kind of talk about what you think about Cedric Tillman as a player overall, and then we'll get into the tape.
Well, I think he's, arguably the offensive X factor for this season. Just from a standpoint of without him, the receiver room is very, very shallow. And, even though he doesn't have a huge track record of performance, he gives you, I think, a physical skill set that just isn't present anywhere else in that room. And, he at least has produced in the NFL before. Limited sample size last year, but I mean, before he got hurt, those couple games, he looked very good. He's putting up good numbers, and this coincided with a quarterback change, which also improved
Shocker.
Jerry Jeudy's numbers. So it was really unfortunate that he got concussed that Chargers game, because he was on a roll, and he was, I thought, showing some pretty significant progress as a player, because he came out of college from that Tennessee offense where you ran like 2 or 3 routes and you just won because you were bigger, faster, stronger than your corners, and you just had the ball lofted up to you. Like Jalen Hyatt hasn't really panned out in New York. He was a higher draft pick than Tillman, right? And wasn't he the Biletnikoff winner? Like he was very productive in college. He had a lot of fans coming out, but it's difficult to make that transition schematically, because you're asked to do a variety of things that most NFL wide receivers are asked to do that you weren't used to doing in college. And, I think we saw some of that from Tillman as a rookie. Like, he didn't play very much. He didn't have a whole lot of production in the reps that he did get. And then it took him, 6-7 weeks in year 2 to really get significant playing time and actually get a chance to produce. And once he did, I thought he showed, like, okay, this guy's actually been working on stuff, right? He's not just this big body, contested catch guy. I thought he actually started to show like some pretty decent route running and wiggle for a guy his size, which I wasn't really expecting. And I think that's encouraging for his long-term development and encouraging for what his role is going to be in 2025.
Yeah, I think if you want to see one particular play in 2023, when you talk about some of his struggles as a rookie, where you can tell like he just didn't know what he was supposed to do on that play, watch the overthrow in the end zone against the Jets on Thursday night when Joe Flacco just loses his mind on Cedric Tillman because he ran the wrong route. It was a choice route, and he ran the wrong one based on the coverage they got, and Flacco threw to where he thought he should have been, and that wasn't where he was. And that's an example of, like you said, they ran like 3 routes: a go route, a post, and a comeback. That's about all they run at Tennessee.
Pretty much it. Yep. Pretty much it.
Well, they might throw in a slant there, here and there. Maybe they run a quick.
The heat map is just crazy. You're like, what am I looking at?
It's so hard, like, to evaluate these wide receivers. And there's been some talented ones come out of Tennessee. You're like, I can see the talent, but you don't know how to play you don't know the nuances of the position, and you don't have a full route tree because they just, I was listening to a draft guy talk about it the other day because, I'm full draft all the time. And he said, what's best for the program isn't necessarily what's best for a player's NFL prospects, because they're just trying to win games. They just want to go out and win games, and that may not get you ready for the pros. Tennessee wants to go beat whoever's in front of them. And so, like, that's how you get in these situations. But yeah, man, they need that big physical wide receiver. And I agree. Like, he's got some long strides. I think his straight line speed's better than people want to give it credit for. Like, I think when he gets up, when he's in a straight line, he can run that post, that go, do a really good job. And I'm sure you've got the play I'm sure you've got that Jameis play from that Baltimore game. I'm sure it's in there. It might be.
It's in there somewhere.
It's in there somewhere. See, I say that, and then I'm like, oh, right? Am I full of shit? Can you confirm? Can you please tell me it's there? But, like, yeah, I did. I agree. I do think he's a not just a big physical contested catch guy. Like, there's some really nice athleticism stuff. So let's dive right into it, man.
All right. So first up here, he's at the top of your screen here. And this is just an example. Like, this is something that he did not have in his toolbox coming into the NFL, right? So he's, there's tight press coverage here. He's going to release on this slant, get open, and make the catch. Right? It's nothing special, but, you want to highlight development and progression from these younger guys, and this is an area that he's been able to do that, right? It's effective. Like, it's not the most amazing thing you've ever seen. He didn't get wide open, but he got open, and that's all you really need to do. Here's so he's down here on the bottom, so he's going to run kind of like a crosser post kind of across the field. Judy's going to do the same thing over here. Tillman's going to get open here, right? Like Watson does not see him at all, but like this is where you hope, like, oh, Joe Flacco is going to be able to make this read properly, see what's unfolding here. Because, like, right when you see this safety here, the safety down here commits to try to undercut this route, but he's undercutting Judy. And right when that happens, this defender is also running with Judy. This is when you have to start thinking, like, okay, Tillman's going to be wide open. Like, this could be a touchdown. Because, number 29 down here? That guy is the only one who's going to be able to make that play on Tillman, but he's going to be trailing behind him significantly. And he doesn't even do that, so he stays back here. There's no one out here. But Watson doesn't see it, just dumps it off. So, again, we say this all the time. Kevin Stefanski's a good play caller. Like, he knows what he's doing. Just give him league average quarterback play, and he'll get guys open, and the plays will be there to be made. You just got to make the throws.
I don't even think we're asking for much. We're not even asking for that much.
It apparently is too much to ask, so because it hasn't happened. So
fair.
It's just unfortunate. So here he's up here. He's going to make a catch on a dig route. Which, again, that's another addition to the toolbox here. You just get open, get behind the defender, make the catch, right? And these are the kind of routes. Like, this is the area of the field where I think he's most effective in, because you have that size, but you also have a little bit more speed and fluidity than a bigger receiver normally would. And he could be really effective in that intermediate to deep range, which I think pairs really well with a guy like Judy, who you can take him deep, but he can also, have the drags and the slants and the flats and turn those into big gains. And then you have guys like Fannin and Njoku to fill out those other areas of the field. So I really think they need, a number one guy who can really stretch the field, game breaking type of receiver. But once they get that, I think Tillman definitely has a place in this offense long term, just based off of what he's shown to this point in his career. And I really do think the public perception about him would be a lot different had he not gotten hurt. Because it's hard to rely on a guy as wide receiver too when he had 4 or 5 games of production. But those 4 or 5 games, understanding where he's been in his development, I think it's encouraging, and I feel good about him heading into the season. This is an area where I think he needs to get better at. So there were quite a few times, and you'll see this later on, where, coming out, contested catch guy, catches everything, big catch radius. That's great, but I need you to make the catches, right? I need you to hang on to the difficult passes. And I think that's an area where he maybe hasn't been great at to this point in his career. So this ends up being a pick, right? It's a bad throw, right? It's behind him, but it's still a catchable pass. I know he it's a fastball like Brandon Whedon style, but I'm sorry about that jump scare. You got to make that 2 hands on the football. You got to make the adjustment behind you. It's tough, but you got to make that catch. And then what happens? Now, to be fair, this is also an area where he needs to develop more as mentally, right? Because what you're talking about, where Flacco was mad at him, I don't think we talked about this before. DTR wasn't throwing this to him. This was to Jordan Akins.
Yeah.
And so it's like he didn't even need to try to make that tough catch because it wasn't to him. But that's having an understanding of the play call, not only your route responsibilities, but what the entire goal of the pass is and where your other teammates are going to be. So he just wasn't conscious of that on this play, and it unfortunately led to a turnover. Let's see, what do we have next? So he's up here at the top. Again, there's an open window here between the safety and the corner. but I not saying anything. It's
That
over.
was
It's over. We can move on. It was a completion too, right? I'm not getting up in arms about that. I've said my piece plenty of times.
I think we all have at this point.
Yes. Up at the top. No completion on this play, but I want you to, he cuts that route off pretty well. Like, he sends that corner, the corner, chops and throttles down pretty well to stay with him. But like, for a bigger guy, full speed, and then, cutting that off, I think that's pretty good. Like, I will take that from my bigger wide receivers.
Looking at him like, and I've got a play like this too from 2023, but looking at him in college and in 2023 when I was watching that tape, the comeback route, man, because his ability to just, for a big guy, like, to slam on the brakes and cut and change direction, it's surprising how well he can do it.
Yeah, and he's gotten better at it, right? That's development. See, I think this one, he ends up wide open across the middle of the field. Winston finds him. Again, that Ravens game was kind of his like, oh, this guy can play. Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, so I didn't know. I wasn't familiar with your game. I apologize.
Yeah. Right here. Again, another wide open here. It takes Winston a little bit of time, but there's so much green here.
Yeah, he's just chilling.
It's find those holes, and he doesn't just stay there. He works his way away from this outside corner here too to give Winston a little bit more room. Then he makes a nice little move after the catch. So I think he's just an interesting player to me. Like I think he's very intriguing, and I'm excited to see what he's able to do. So over here on the top, nice little outside route, stays on his feet and is able to get up to the original line of scrimmage. Clearly there was a pretty significant penalty.
Shocker.
So this is a touchdown here. So bottom of the screen on the slant, gets plenty of cushion here from number 5. That's a nice move, at full speed to do just enough to throw the safety off, keep his balance, and get in the end zone. This is not the best touchdown of the day for him.
I know.
Here's the play.
Oh.
Beautiful.
That
I love this.
At the top.
Yeah, that's all it took, right? Because the safety's flat-footed here. Like this is it. Like he wins the route.
Yep.
Like there's no coming back from this for the safety. It doesn't matter who you're defending here, right? When you're in this position, it's over. Head to the bench right now. And Winston hits him. Like, he gets the ball there, and that's a huge touchdown in that game.
And that's one of those straight line speed things that I was talking about with him. It's like he's got that move. He puts that move on him, but he has enough speed to then separate away. Yeah.
And I think it surprises DBs how quickly he can get up on them. Like, they don't expect it. Like, oh, I thought you were going to be this, bruiser possession guy, but which he can be, but he's not limited to just that, right? And I think that's part of what makes him a intriguing player for this season. Bottom of your screen. There's an opening there. I mean, it's not placed super well. You want the ball like over here, but again, it's like he's not a burner, but he can provide some field stretching and spacing, and I think that's valuable, considering what his primary role is, which is that intermediate target. Let's see. So top of the screen, holds on, big hit. I mean, this is what you're talking about as far as like how he's built.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? Is that Roquan Smith just tries to level him and then just gets like.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And then Tillman just like, that's so great. I love that. I gotta find the other angle. That's just
Nice try.
that's
Nice try.
top tier comedy right there. So this one I think is, back down here. Again, possession guy hanging on when you need some yardage. It's a tough throw. He can make the throw, unless it's against the Giants and it's 4th down and Deshaun Watson is trying to lead a game-winning drive. Then he will not catch the ball.
Yeah.
Oh well. Bottom of your screen here, just a little button hook. Then he's able to make a couple guys move and get, it's not like a ton of yards after the catch, but
it was a lot of work for like 5 yards.
Yeah, like you ran a mile to gain a yard, like whatever the terminology is for that one. But it's just kind of cool, I guess. This is a really nice play. So this throw was originally deemed incomplete, but they reviewed it and it's a touchdown. I mean, that's a really nicely placed back shoulder ball there. And then he makes that throw with the DB draped all over him, just like with one hand almost. And then he's got the ability to tap both feet in there and hang on to it when he hits the ground. And that was called a touchdown after review. So, again, pretty interesting plays here from this guy. So, lots of yards on these kind of like crosser type dig throws, which I think are going to be his bread and butter. The like you're saying, the speed that he has, like the DB always has to be careful of that. Like he can't fully commit to defending that crosser because, like that safety against the Ravens, like, you could get burned pretty badly if you overcommit. And so, he finds these openings, and I think he does a pretty good job with that. And then here, to finish off with, this is another play where he has to, be more consistent with catching the ball. So he drops this ball, like he just lets it get into his chest, even before he gets leveled. I don't know if this was the play he got concussed on or not, but like you got to make that throw. Like that's a touchdown. You got to haul it in. So
yeah.
Overall, though, pretty encouraging string of games for him, and I think he's definitely in a prime position to continue that in 2025, just because there's targets that need to go around and not many guys to get them. So.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. All right, I'm gonna jump over here. Oh, all right. I used to be able to just click on my screen to replace your screen. Now I got to turn yours off and then turn mine on. I'm like, oh yeah, because you just had to make my life more difficult. First world.
It was an update.
First world problems. All right. I'm going to run through this pretty quick with you guys because I don't have as much on here. You'll see them here at the bottom of your screen. And just turn back, come back. And that's where that big size and physicality there, and he's able to shield. Like, he's got to be careful not to let the ball into his body, but he does use his body to shield the ball from the defender. Like, and he's just got to be more consistent. Like, those concentration drops, they happened a lot in college too, where it's just concentration.
Yep.
You'll see him here, just kind of crosser across the field. Where's he at? He's right there. Sorry. That's where he fights through the defender at the top of the route so that he can cut out. My notes are out. I think I put my video in out of order in my notes. Sorry. But you can see him here in the middle of the screen. You saw him down there at the bottom, kind of like where they were kind of locked up. Like, he was getting pressed and he had to work through that. Here he is again. Literally just another example of his ability to throttle down, change direction, and then just make a catch through contact because he gets hit immediately upon making the reception here. You'll see it on the right side of your screen there, just boop. And actually had to bobble with that one.
Yep.
Here is although this is the reception. I have a reception and a blocking clip for him. But you're going to see him there just run a little cross, just a little shallow crosser right here, just kind of drag across, long strides, and then you're going to see him be able to turn up field, and those long legs, those long strides just eat up yards. And he almost gets it into the end zone, but just kind of glides across it, a little it's a little misleading. His size can be sometimes. You're going to see him here. He's going to be on your in the inner part here, right next to your left tackle here. This is going to be a blocking rep. Watch him get out. I think he blocks the corner up here. But he's got the size to be a good run blocker, and you'll see an example of it here. He just very inconsistent. Watch him just kind of get and then locks up with the guy and just keeps riding him to the sideline. Like, his guy doesn't make the play. The running back got past where his guy was. That's a successful run block. He's just not very consistent with it.
Yeah. Well, then was it against the Ravens? Was it Kyle Van Noy or whoever, where he just blindsided and then, stared at him?
Absolutely destroyed that dude. I was
pretty sick.
I was like, come on, Cedric. That guy's got a family. He's at the bottom of the screen. He's running in motion here. And that's just a little subtle move at the top of the route, big body, shield the ball, 7 yards, right? And then he keeps fighting and, holding up, but just kind of a little, takes a false step to the outside, is able to then change direction to the inside, make a grab. You saw him there. He's on the crosser right here, just off your screen at first, and you can see just jumps up, shields the ball, keeps it away, and apparently that was it. No, I thought there was a play that I missed. Maybe I did.
It's the Cleveland beat.
Yeah, but that's it, guys. That is our Cedric Tillman episode. We will be back again with you guys next week. We're really uncertain who we're going to cover, so if you have an idea, throw it in the chat. But I think as we go through the preseason and some things like that, that you'll start seeing some of these shows where we'll talk about more than just the player, and the first half of the show maybe just discussion between us. But we appreciate you guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We'll see you guys again next week. As always,